You're watching Southwest Florida in Focus. On today's program, the show goes on at Naples Pridefest despite an ongoing legal battle. A last-minute court order didn't stop event organizers from getting their signature drag performance on stage, but they did have to make some changes. Rebuilding Fort Myers Beach, how its mayor hopes to hang on to old Florida vibes while embracing the island community's growth. And it was supposed to give one of Florida's poorest communities an economic boost, but a proposed cargo airport in Hendry County has yet to take flight. Hello, I'm Sandra Victorova. Thank you for joining us. The annual Naples Pridefest avoided multiple legal hurdles to bring the celebration to thousands of attendees this year. Still, a late court decision impacted the LGBTQ+ event. 24 hours before the gates opened, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals granted a request by the City of Naples to force the marquee performance, the Drag Extravaganza, indoors instead of outdoors at Cambier Park, and barred anyone under 18 from attending. WGCU's Eddie Stewart reports.
We just try to show off and spread love, and that's all we do. We're just here to be loving.
Over 4,000 people showed up to Pridefest in Naples last weekend, enjoying food and drinks, organizations in support of the LGBTQ+ community, and a variety of performances at Cambier Park. That is, most performances. Only about 600 people could experience the festival's signature Drag Extravaganza. That's because of a last-minute court decision which confined the drag show off the main stage and indoors.
And yesterday, we had to, do a lot of changes, which means she had to deal with it when, she actually woke up. She did not wake up early. Just saying.
It's been stressful for, the fact that they waited till, the 11th hour to tell us that we did have to move inside, but we have done it before inside, and especially in here, so we knew the game plan, we knew how to adjust quickly, but it'd be fun to be out with everybody because we know it's like a spectacular year this year and it's a beautiful day, but yeah, sometimes you got to roll with the punches.
One attendee said the controversy made her more determined to attend.
When there's this much ugly on the outside, it makes me even want to come in more with the not ugly.
Protesters also showed up, supporting the City of Naples' ban on outdoor drag shows. Naples police estimated about 250 protesters. Only one incident led to an arrest. Advocates for Pridefest say they're still in the fight to bring the drag show out in the open next year.
We're here, we're proud to be who we are, and we want to be seen, and we want for others to know that we are celebrating with our community. Putting us inside, putting us in the shadows, literally, putting us hidden away, tucked away, so that people can't see us, is the embodiment of what we're here to fight against. And we're going to move to the end of the case as fast as we can, so that by this time next year, we're here outside celebrating with a drag show that's outside.
For WGCU News, I'm Eddie Stewart.
Last month, a lower court ruled against the City of Naples, finding their permitting restrictions for the event as clearly invalid under the First Amendment. Governor Ron DeSantis and Representative Byron both criticized previous rulings in favor of the event. They cite concerns about protecting children from sexually explicit content. Attorneys for the ACLU of Florida played an instrumental role in clearing a path for Pridefest this year. ACLU of Florida Executive Director Bacardi Jackson spoke about the restrictions placed on the drag show. She says while their side didn't get the ruling they hoped for, they moved forward, saying that justice is rarely linear. We are joined now by Howard Simon. He spent 23 years as Executive Director of the ACLU of Florida. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Simon. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
So the district judge in this case ruled that the drag show is protected speech. I want you to help us to understand where the legal boundaries are in terms of when something goes from being considered free speech and then can cross into that area which may not be protected, such as obscenity.
Well, obscenity is a very technical legal definition that has to deal with things like community standards, whether there's any redeeming artistic value. And of course, there's plenty of artistic value because there's lots of Broadway shows, Mozart operas, history of their shows on Broadway now that deal with drag performances and so on. And I don't know why the city of Naples is trying to bang its head against the wall and try to defend a ban which is clearly unconstitutional, as it is a violation of the freedom of speech of the people who are attempting to put on this performance.
Mr. Simon, when you first took over the ACLU of Florida in 1997, LGBTQ issues were certainly a major issue back then as well. I'm thinking of issues like same-sex marriage. How have you seen the discussion of LGBTQ rights change over the years?
Well, that's a really interesting question. There's some things that have changed, and there's some things that have sadly stayed the same. I think what's changed is that we are a lot closer to legal equality for members of the LGBT community than we were several decades ago. I mean, it took us several years to strike down the ban on adoptions by gay men and lesbians. It took us a while to establish, before the US Supreme Court did, the right to marry. It took us many years to defend local ordinances that prohibited discrimination on the basis of being gay. So the legal environment has really changed. I think culturally we've moved on. I don't think people think that being gay is a legitimate basis for discrimination anymore. So a lot has changed culturally and legally. What has not changed, unfortunately, is a lot of the ugly rhetoric. When did it become permissible in America to say that I may be offended by a drag performance? I wouldn't want my children to see one. I wouldn't want to attend one, but I have the right to ban it for everybody else who doesn't object to it. I think that's a profoundly un-American attitude towards freedom of speech in this country.
Why do you think it's important to protect events like Pride from a legal perspective?
Well, because they have a constitutional right of freedom of speech. It's important to protect everybody's freedom of speech from the point, regardless of political point of view. That's the work that the ACLU has done now for more than 100 years. I mean, you're asking me why it's important. It's important because if we don't have the protection of freedom of speech for everybody in this country, regardless of their political point of view, regardless of whether you agree with it or whether you're offended by it or not, we've gone a long way towards becoming some country other than America.
Mr. Simon, we appreciate your input. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
A new town hall and better bridges are some of the rebuilding efforts underway on Fort Myers Beach. Coming up next, we sit down with Mayor Dan Allers to learn more about the island community's future. 15 years of talk and promises and no cargo airport to show for them. That's the situation in Hendry County. Since 2010, investors have promoted a giant cargo hub near Clewiston. They talked about high-paying jobs in one of the poorest counties in the state. So where do things stand with these high-flying dreams? WGCU's Mike Walcher tried to find out.
Welcome to Everglades International Airport, AIA, as the Federal Aviation Administration calls it. It's pretty quiet, especially for a place touted as a potential major cargo airport, bringing in produce and flowers from Central and South America, and providing, investors claim, maybe 1,000 good-paying jobs.
There's more than enough unemployment here, so that would definitely be positive.
Do you have any hope it'll happen?
Like I say, I haven't really heard anything about it, so, and it's been that long that they've been discussing it, so I don't know, maybe not.
Everglades has a notable history. It was Riddle Field at the start of World War II when 1,300 British pilots trained here. Recently, the airport's had skydiving and pilot refresher flights. But a company called Florida Cargo Fresh envisions a cargo hub here. It is partnered with Hilliard Brothers Agriculture, headquartered near the airport, and U.S. Sugar, based in Clewiston. The parent company is Everglades, the future of logistics. It foresees a 10,000-foot runway, double the current length, plus refrigerated warehouses and trucks to distribute the produce.
It will give it an international footprint of goods coming from abroad.
Benny Benitez has spent his adult life in aviation and has operated a consulting firm in Miami the past 22 years.
I believe the economics to Henry County will be exceptional.
We contacted Everglades and received a statement saying there is no substantive update. It does say it's talking with the FAA about the agency's money requirement, that Everglades must have at least $97.5 million available to start building and operating a cargo hub.
I mean, I haven't seen any progress towards it. Personally, I don't think we need anything more here. I moved here for a little town feeling.
A big obstacle is that Miami International, MIA, is the king of cargo in the southeast U.S., and it has no desire to give up its crown. It's a huge moneymaker for Miami-Dade County. It charges a fee for every plane that lands based on weight. An average-sized loaded cargo jet pays about $400 every time it touches down. MIA sets a new cargo record almost every year, with 3 million tons coming in last year and predictions of 5 million tons by 2040. Miami-Dade has earmarked $400 million to build a new and bigger cargo facility at MIA. That would guarantee more jobs and likely more aviation repair and parts shops around the airport.
Municipalities of Doral, Medley, West Hialeah, they have been expanded for many years with tremendous cargo complexes, huge warehouses. And the influx of such aircraft with goods and cargo stimulates all that.
Henry County government officials are refusing interviews about the cargo hub. However, in a statement to WGCU News, county management says the investors could be helping the local economy right now. On this land, investors could build and lease hangars, Henry says, or they could build maintenance and repair shops.
Cargo it's a pinnacle point of our economy, both locally and globally.
And so the Everglades of dreams shimmers in the heat. No one knows whether it will become the engine for economic revival for this area or remain just a quiet airfield. For WGCU News in Hendry County, I'm Mike Walsher.
One community that is having success with large construction projects is the town of Fort Myers Beach. The new Big Carlos Pass Bridge that connects the south end of the barrier island to Lovers Key is projected to be completed by the summer of 2026. Fort Myers Beach also hopes to open this new town hall in about a month. Hurricane Ian destroyed the former town hall in 2022. Buying this structure on Estero Boulevard and repairing its storm damage cost about $8 million. The new town hall will house about 65 employees who have had to work from locations across the area. To get a better understanding of how the beach community is recovering from Ian, we recently sat down with Mayor Dan Allers in Times Square. Here is part of that conversation. Mayor Allers, welcome.
Thank you.
So it is hard to believe that in September it will have been 3 years since Hurricane Ian. So I want to start with the big picture here. How is the recovery going as far as residential units coming back? How many did you lose? How many are back? And how about lodging?
Well, lodging, we'll start with that, I guess. We lost quite a few, obviously, hotels. We're probably just over 50%, 52% or so of the hotel units that are back that we had pre-storm, which is a significant number. If you look at the Whale, the Beach Bar is another one that's pretty close to being done this year. So we're excited about the progress. Obviously, things could go much faster. We'd love things to go faster, but building in a barrier island is very difficult. It's very challenging. It's not the same as, if I'm from the Midwest. Building up there is far easier than it is down here. There's so many more regulations, wind codes you got to deal with, structure-wise, elevation, flood maps. So it's challenging. It takes time to design projects, a year to 2 years sometimes to design a project once it's been approved. And then the construction is another year to 2 years. So, 3 years has gone by, or almost 3 years has gone by pretty fast, but we still have a long way to go. I'd say probably 1,500 rooms we lost, because I think we had right around 2,600 rooms pre-storm, and we're just over 1,300 or so back now.
How many homes, structures were lost, and any idea how many have come back?
Of the 3,500-ish structures, when I say structures, that condo building is a structure, it's not every unit within it. We lost about 1,900 that were substantially damaged. Of how many of those are back, it's really hard to put a number on it because it changes every single day. I would say we're probably less than 50% of those that have come back, or at least are in the process of coming back. But what's encouraging is that you can't go down a street on the island that you're not seeing either a new house that's been built and is being lived in already, or one that is coming out of the ground, or one that's already cleared permitting and is now ready to come out of the ground. So it's encouraging. Some streets have several, 3, 4, 5 homes that are coming out of the ground. So it's exciting to see that people are investing back in the island. I think they see that we're moving down the right path to be more resilient, to hopefully never have to deal with a storm again, but should we have to deal with it, I think we're prepared to do it.
You know, when another hurricane comes and we see streets flooded here, some people will question, you know, are we meant to be here on this island?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, people have been attracted to barrier islands for decades, right? For centuries, because it's a beautiful place to live. But you have to understand that there are some challenges when you live here. You know, you're not very far above sea level. You know, at most, maybe on our island, 10, 12 feet, 14 at the max, if you're lucky to be above sea level. So when you're getting a 15 to 18 foot storm surge like Ian sends, I mean, you're going to have water. If one thing I would say that came out of Ian is, you know, most of the structures now are going to be elevated. So flooding those lower levels will be far less than it was.
In talking about rebuilding, I know a huge frustration was this loss of the discount from the federal government on flood insurance. It's been a frustration also for small business owners like the one we're at who have been operating out of these containers. Do you feel like these small business owners have been given enough time to rebuild and get out of these containers?
Well, we've tried as hard as we could to fight on their behalf, not just for the business owners, but for our residents. You know, residents are kind of the backbone of this island. Without the residents, a lot of the business don't have support here outside of season. As you can tell, there's not nearly as many people here now as there is during season. So to be able to support that, you have to have the local base. You know, I've always said it's kind of like a tripod. You've got to have your local businesses, you've got to have your residents, and you got to have your visitors or your seasonal residents. So if you've got all three of those and a good combination of those, that's what this island has been built on. And if you lose one of those, that tripod could tip over. So it's very hard to balance that. But losing the national flood insurance discount was upsetting. You know, to me, I took it personally as a failure. But I think we're well on our way back. We just told a couple weeks ago that we've been taken off probation as of November 18th, which allows us to get back in the community rating system and potentially earn our 25% discount back. I can tell you that staff knows that the direction from council is to make sure that happens as best as we can. To be able to get back off of probation as fast as we did, I think is a testament to how hard our staff is working to make sure that we're giving everything in the format that FEMA wants to see it to them. I think that was part of the hiccup. There's some communication issues on both sides. You know, it's unfortunate that we went on probation. It's not what we wanted. We thought we were doing the right things. FEMA didn't quite see it that way, but the fact that we're back off of probation again this year allows us to get back in that CRS program. Our goal is to get at least a 25% discount back, if not more. So by the end of August, we'll be able to get the reviews done through FEMA, their on-site visits. We still have a few things that we need to get cleaned up, both business-wise and residential home-wise, which staff is fully aware of and have reached out to the few that are left that need to come into compliance to ensure that the rest of the residents on the island will get that discount back. So now, unfortunately, it's going to come into a time where we're going to, it's going to be kind of ugly. I've been saying for several years now that there's going to come a time where the town's going to have to do some things that are probably not going to be popular, but in the greater good of the island, it has to be done.
You know, some folks are concerned that they're losing the small town charm of Fort Myers Beach. Do you see it that way?
No, I mean, I've said every single day, I seem to repeat it over and over again. Fort Myers Beach, the charm, yes, all the buildings are part of it. It's the people that are here. It's the visitors. It's the people that choose to live here. It's the families that are raising their kids at the beach school. It's the people that work at town hall. It's the people that you elected to represent you. That's what makes the charm. The buildings are going to look different. We're going to have a very unique mix once it's finally all built back of still some cottages that survived. You're going to have new homes that are built bigger. You're going to see bigger resorts. You're going to see bigger businesses, but they have to be elevated. And it's no one's fault other than Ian's. It's Mother Nature's, it happened. You can't go back. I think things were starting to, before the storm, you were starting to see some of that elevation happening as people were, either elevating their homes or taking them down and building bigger homes. It was starting to happen already. I think Ian just sped it up by a decade. And, you know, we certainly want to see people back. We want things to be resilient because we don't want to have to go through what we did. You know, it still resonates in my mind. The mess that I saw just minutes after the storm was gone, walking around and looking what just Times Square looked like and thinking, is this island ever going to come back? So to see where we're at 2.5 years after the storm, to say I'm satisfied, I mean, there's degrees of satisfaction, right? I would love it to be back fully, but I think we're making good progress. You know, we're learning along the way and we're speeding up as fast as we can where we can, but we want to make sure that things are built correctly. So we want to make sure we're going to leave something that is sustainable. And I think we're well on our way. And if that looks like slow progress, then I can take that punch.
Mayor Allers, thank you for your time.
After the break, we head back 65 million years to get a look at one of the largest creatures to roam Earth and how Florida fared during the time of the dinosaurs. On June 16th, get ready to head back 65 million years as a new program, Walking with Dinosaurs, airs on WGCU. This 3-night event tells the story of 6 iconic dinosaur species uncovered from incredible dig sites. So what can these prehistoric giants tell us about our current planet conditions, and could species once thought lost forever return? To help answer these questions, we are joined by paleontologist and geologist, Dr. Ken Lacavera. Thank you so much, Dr. Lacavera. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Great to be with you.
So you have found some of the most incredible species that have ever roamed the Earth. Nothing compares, though, to this discovery of the Dreadnoughtus, I guess back in 2005. When I was reading the stats on that, 85 feet in length, weighing as much as a herd of animals. First of all, what was that discovery like for you, and how is it possible that these dinosaurs just thrived at such a large size?
Well, I was down in southernmost Patagonia at the bottom of Argentina near Tierra del Fuego, and I was prospecting for giant dinosaurs, a place that had rocks of the right age and big exposures of those rocks. And I found a femur of this animal, the thigh bone, and it was about 6 feet long. You know, it's such a privilege to be the first person to see something, the first person to know something. And then, you know, I stare at that fossil and I think, who were you? And what were you doing? And what was your life about? And what was the world like? And all of these questions trying to connect ourselves to the Earth's ancient past.
So how did these animals thrive at this time at such a large size?
Well, dinosaurs were the undisputed champions of an entire Earth era. They were cosmopolitan, meaning all over the world. They were on every continent. They were in practically every terrestrial niche that an animal could be. And they're really the paragons of success. This particular group of dinosaurs that Dreadnoughtus is part of is known as the sauropods. These are the long neck, long tail, quadruped plant eaters. Think Brontosaurus for short. These are the largest land creatures ever. And so they're models of efficiency. They were able to get more out of a calorie of energy than I think any animal alive today. With that long neck that they have, Dreadnoughtus had a 40-foot neck. So it could stand in one place and clear out this huge feeding envelope of vegetation, taking in tens of thousands of calories, and then stepping a few feet to the left or right and doing that again. So they're just incredibly efficient animals, and you know, the more I know about them, the more admiration I have for them.
A lot of us don't think of dinosaurs in Florida necessarily, right? We think of these discoveries being made in other parts of the world. If we were able to go back, you know, millions of years ago, would we find any sort of interesting fossils here in the, I'll say, Florida region?
Florida hadn't happened yet in the age of the dinosaurs. So Florida was ocean during the time of the dinosaurs. There would have been mosasaurs swimming right through where you are right now, and they were the all-time apex predator of the world's oceans. And you would have had giant pterosaurs in the skies above Florida, but all dinosaurs lived on land. So they would be on the coast, which for you would be in Georgia. And then it's later, after the time of the dinosaurs, in very warm tropical seas, that the shells and the coral reef started to pile up, and that's what actually created Florida. Florida is essentially one giant fossil made of trillions and trillions of ancient creatures.
Dr. Lacavera, so interesting, and thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And if you want to catch Walking with Dinosaurs, the 3-night event begins this Monday at 8 p.m. right here on WGCU. The youth movement behind classical music. Coming up next week, we learn more about how younger generations could be called in to save the symphony. Join us for that story and much more next week. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our WGCU News YouTube channel, where you can find all of our stories plus those extended interviews. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.